Hello everyone. In this topic, we'll be starting into the circulatory system. This is sometimes referred to as the cardiovascular system, but that's actually just one part of the circulatory system. What we'll find is the circulatory system encompasses not only the heart and associated blood vessels, which is the cardiovascular system, but also what's referred to as the lymphatic system, which we'll talk about as a number of vessels, nodes, and other types of ducts that are involved in transporting substances and collecting them from around the body. So both of these systems work in concert. Collectively, we'll call them the circulatory system. The lymphatic system transports what's normally a clear liquid called lymph, which we'll talk more about, especially when we get into the immune system topic, because it has a role in that as well. And then the cardiovascular system, again, cardio means heart, and vascular means blood vessels. This transports blood all around the body. The heart, of course, being the pump, and the vessels, arteries, capillaries, veins, and all of the other smaller ones in between, they are the conducting tubes, for lack of a better term. So the lymphatic system, many of the ducts and tubes kind of mirror where the blood vessels go, and it plays a supporting role in circulation. You'll find these lymph nodes that we'll talk about later that swell up when you get sick. And they also help to collect fluid and bring it back into your bloodstream so you don't lose too much fluid. So these are the three major functions of the lymphatic system. As I just mentioned, what happens in your cardiovascular system, shown here as these capillaries, you see them over here and also down here. What happens is fluid leaks out of the blood in the capillaries. And if that fluid didn't get reabsorbed by the lymphatic system, we'd have a big problem. Your blood pressure would drop and your blood wouldn't flow properly, it would get too thick. But luckily, the lymphatic system collects, recycles, reabsorbs that fluid. Before it does that, it also helps to filter out any waste products. So down here, fighting illness. So recycling fluids, fighting illness, it helps to filter out bad stuff. It's also a key location where immune system cells get activated to go on to fight off infection. And then also helping to absorb nutrients, particularly lipids, from your food, and helping to bring these then into your bloodstream so that they can be processed by your cells and used as a source of energy or for other materials to make cells and make substances in the cells. So the cardiovascular system is delivering a variety of nutrients, gases, hormones, things like oxygen, hormones like insulin we've talked about previously, but also to remove waste products from the body, things like carbon dioxide, one of the waste products that's generated as a result of cellular respiration that goes on inside all of our cells. Other waste products like nitrogen wastes are being removed from our cells and brought to things like our kidneys, where urine is then formed to get that out of the body. You can see down here this general pathway from the heart, away from the heart, through a series of different vessels, arteries, arterioles, capillaries, venules, veins, and then back to the heart again. It's a circle. Even though it looks like a line, it's actually a circle. And we'll talk more about that pathway a little bit later on, but it's an introduction to these terms that are used that describe the different vessels. So those are the major functions of the lymphatic system. What about the circulatory system? Well, we just finished talking about transport, nutrients, wastes, hormones, etc. Also involved in temperature regulation. I'll talk about in a few minutes how our blood flow helps to keep our body at the right temperature, which is typically around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. When you're not sick, that's the same as 37 degrees Celsius. And then protection, helping to deliver immune system cells, chemicals, other defensive things around the body. So how is it that temperature is regulated by blood flow? Well, for one, our body is able to regulate where blood is moving, how fast it's moving there, and how much of it is moving there. So let's talk about how this works. There are these circular muscles that are called precapillary. So pre means before, so before the capillaries, and they're called sphincters. A sphincter is a general term for a circular muscle. And a circular muscle is one that regulates passage. So it's regulating what is moving through that vessel, area, whatever. So in this particular picture up here, we're looking at blood coming away from the heart, going into an artery, goes off into a smaller arteriole, and then it goes into these capillaries here. And these are specifically capillaries that are close to the surface of the skin. So when you're hot, what happens is that precapillary sphincter is open. It's relaxed. That allows maximum blood flow going towards the surface of your skin. That's why when you exercise, your skin feels hot, or you might turn a little bit flushed, a little red, because there's increased blood flow there to help get heat out of the body. Because if heat goes closer to the surface, it's able to leave the body more easily. Oppositely, when you're cold, those precapillary sphincters are going to narrow or close off, reducing blood flow going towards the surface of the skin, which is why your skin is going to feel cold, or you might be a little pale because you have less blood flow, and blood is going to be kept instead in the center of the body to keep that core warm. Now, to finish up this introduction, I want to talk about the actual process of gas exchange. So as you can see here, in organisms such as ourselves that are, many, many trillions of cells, this is a two-stage process. The first stage here is happening inside the lungs on the left, and the second is happening everywhere else, all around the body. So inside the lungs, in the open space, we breathe in air. Air comes in here. It's got relatively high amounts of oxygen compared to our blood vessels that are surrounding that opening inside of our lungs. There's lower oxygen there. That means that oxygen is going to move by diffusion, higher concentration towards a lower concentration. Carbon dioxide, on the other hand, is higher inside the bloodstream because that's picking up this carbon dioxide from all the cells of our body that made it during cellular respiration. And that is lower inside the lungs than the air that's breathed in. And so that carbon dioxide diffuses out of the blood into the lungs. So in the lungs, oxygen is diffusing into the blood, and carbon dioxide is diffusing out of the blood. Then we breathe that air out, removing that carbon dioxide from the body. If we look now everywhere else around the body, compared to the blood vessels and our cells that are receiving those delivered nutrients, we have higher oxygen levels in those blood vessels compared to our body cells, because our body cells are using up that oxygen in cellular respiration, so they have less of it. So oxygen is diffusing, in this case, from the blood into our cells. And then carbon dioxide levels are higher inside our body cells, again due to cellular respiration, compared to the blood there, and so they are going to diffuse out. That gets brought all the way into the lungs, and then released into the lungs and breathed out. This two-step process is how gas exchange occurs. And that finishes up our introduction to this topic.